Hi, I'm Noriko. Welcome to Noriko Art. Today, I'm interviewing Pippa Goodhart. Pippa is an award-winning children's book author. Her first book was published in 1994, and since then she has had more than 100 books published, including the picture book You Choose, which has sold over 1 million copies, and the Winnie the Witch storybooks, which she writes under the name of Laura Owen. Pippa has been long listed for the Kate Greenaway Award, won the 2011 Mumsnet Children's Book of the Year for 3 to 4 years olds, and was shortlisted for the Young Telegraph Book of the Year Award. Pippa is also a teacher with a passion for creating quality books for children, for connecting children with books, and for developing new writers. Hi, Pippa.
So,
It's a great honor to talk to you today. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Have you been very busy?
Yes, I'm currently trying to finish a novel, and the
Oh,
deadline is looming.
okay. Is that novel for children or
Oh, yes,
adults?
yes.
Children. Okay. Well, you've written so many books, and I'd love to hear about how you work and how you get ideas for your so many stories. So, Pippa, the first question is, how did you become a published children's author?
Um, well, I was not the sort of child who always wanted to write or anything like that. It wasn't
Mhm.
a thought that had come into my head. I was very slow at learning to read and to write. But I did love stories. I love dressing up and playing stories.
Yeah.
When I went to secondary school, I got a Saturday job, which happened to be in a bookshop. And that's how I got into the whole sort of book world.
Uh-huh.
After university, I went back to that bookshop in Cambridge, and they put me in the children's bookshop. So I had 5 years of working there, reading
Yeah.
lots and lots of books, and of course, meeting authors and illustrators.
Okay.
Still not thinking of having a go myself. But when I got, when I was married and with two small children, my husband was saying, "Look, there's a competition. I think
Yeah.
have a go."
Uh-huh.
And worse than that, he gave me no excuse because when we were on holiday, he took
Yeah.
the two little girls off to give me time. So
Oh,
I had to
okay.
have a go, and that
Uh-huh.
turned into the first book.
Wow. So you
Competition.
had never submitted to any other places, and
I
that's
hadn't
what.
at that point. No, I've
Ah,
submitted many, many books, many of them, or many stories that have not made it to books
okay.
since.
Mm-hmm,
Uh,
mm-hmm.
yes.
So your husband knew you were good at writing.
Well, he didn't know. I didn't know. None of us knew because I hadn't ever tried writing anything of that length. But he just felt I should have a go.
Uh-huh. Wow. He must have foreseen the future. I came across this blog post
Hmm.
by readingzone.com. I will read what you said in this blog.
Oh.
I was a child who was slow at learning to read, and I wasn't good at spelling. I never thought of myself as somebody who might ever write a book. So that's very interesting. And I think it's also encouraging for people
Well,
who,
when I
yeah,
do school visits, I make
yeah,
a point of telling children that they may not be the top of the class for spelling, but they might be the best story writers or the best
mhm,
story creators. And
yeah,
stories don't have to be written down and read.
mhm,
For some of them have
yeah,
to be a revelation.
mhm. And you wrote a story about a boy who is a dyslexic, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So is that to do with your own experience?
Well, my husband's very dyslexic, but it
Ah,
wasn't
yeah.
picked up on at school. So
Mm-hmm.
he thought he was stupid, which
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
is. Um, so it was based very much on that. And actually, one of my daughters, the daughter who was born after I'd written that
Yeah.
story, is very dyslexic,
Okay.
has done very well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's very encouraging for children and adults as well.
Maybe.
Um, so when you were a child, what were your aspirations? What did you think you would be doing when you grew up?
I couldn't really imagine myself as an adult. I very much liked being a child. Didn't particularly want to hurry on.
Yeah.
I had friends who knew exactly what they wanted to
Yeah.
be,
Mhm.
and I was always a bit of a blank. So actually, having got that Saturday job in a bookshop,
Mhm.
um, that's what led me to what I do now, and that was
Yeah.
just looking for any job that would take me. Really,
Mhm.
loved it.
See. So, um, you didn't start writing when you were working for the bookshop.
No, no.
That was after your children came along?
Yes, between then,
Mm.
I worked full time in the bookshop for
Mm.
5 years after
Yeah.
university. I then married and moved away,
Mhm.
and did a job for a publisher
Uh-huh.
as a reader.
Mhm.
So all the manuscripts that get sent in go on
Yeah.
what we call the slush pile, and someone
Mhm.
has to read them. Uh,
Mhm.
so they were sent to me. This is from Oxford University Press. So I
Uh-huh.
read a lot and wrote a short report and
Mhm.
learn an awful lot by trying to
Ah.
assess other people's work.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that there was all that background before I sat
Okay.
to try and
So,
write.
you are like the first gate, who read all
Yeah,
this, sort
yeah,
out all these manuscripts, and you can tell, oh, this is not good.
yes.
This much
And
potential.
this one's got something. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed it because you
Uh-huh.
an awful lot of bad stuff or just
Yeah.
adequate stuff, but nothing
Mhm.
no spark. But just occasionally you'd find a gem.
Yeah. So how did you get that position to
Well,
be a read?
I'd met that particular publisher as a bookseller. So
Uh-huh.
looking for something I could do from home, I
Mhm.
just wrote around and wrote to, it was Ron Heapy was the editor then, and he said,
Uh-huh.
I want you to do this job, which I didn't really know what it was. Made it up as I went on,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
did it for quite a few years.
Ah. Oh, that was perfect then. Ah, you could stay and look after children, but you could
Yes,
read.
yes, I combined it all with child minding other people's children as well. So.
Oh, were you? Okay. Well, as a children's book author, that's really good because you were surrounded by
Found
children.
it no time, yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's so hard, such a hard work, isn't it? So, you've written so many stories for various ages.
Yes.
Is that because, as your children grew up, your ideal readers also grew up, or?
No, I mean, I started with a novel for junior school age,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
when I had a 3 and a 1-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
and I've kept writing for that age, even that they're now
Mm-hmm.
in their late 20s.
Yeah.
But I enjoy doing the different challenges. The picture
Mm-hmm.
books are just wonderful when you get an
Yeah.
illustrator bringing your story to life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very hard to get right, and then I've written so many that have never made it. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but on the other hand, I also like
Mm-hmm.
then doing a novel where you really get into a whole world and
Mm-hmm.
it's all down to your words. And then in between, there are the sort of school early reader books.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody who struggles with learning to read, I feel
Yeah.
strong about, and they're very important books because those
Mm-hmm.
that make readers or
Yeah.
put people off reading.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I actually enjoyed your books for the early readers, like
that's a
this.
very old one.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
I wish these were around in Japan when I was learning English, but because when I was reading English books, that was boring.
Here is
Sorry.
Tip. Tip is a dog. The dog has a ball, and there was no story. So even
Okay.
when you're very restricted with words,
Uh-huh.
you
Uh-huh.
deliver some joke or story or something that rewards the effort of reading.
Yeah. Mm. So, so where do you get all these ideas?
Life.
Yeah.
Once you sort of train your antennae to pick up possible story ideas, you
Mhm.
overhear something or you see something or you remember something um, and of course I also do rewriting of existing stories sometimes. I've just
Ah.
done there's a version of The Little Mermaid that's about to be published, which is for a reading scheme. That was a
Uh-huh.
commission. But reading the original Anderson, it is brutal. It's horrific.
Oh, see.
Tongues cut out and death.
Yes.
Writing for 5-year-olds, I changed that.
Yeah, some of the stories were quite scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Also, I've got here Chapati Moon. Also, this is a modern version of.
well, no, that's not a modern version of a traditional story. It is completely my story.
Ah,
But
okay.
it has slight parallels with the Runaway Pancake.
Yes, yeah.
A different sort of ending.
Runaway Pancake, it's eaten by fox at the
Yes,
end.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yes, eaten by her.
Yeah.
Oh.
That can be quite brutal, I think.
Yes, so many of those stories are.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Chapati Moon. It's interesting. You didn't grow up in India. You
No,
were all.
I lived for 26 years in Leicester, and my children were at a school where they were in the ethnic minority, being white British, because we were so many different Asian cultures around us. So I feel quite at home.
I see, I see.
And the schools I visit are so different in their racial mix or lack of racial mix.
Okay, going back to the question. Have you ever had writer's block?
I sort of have writer's block within a story I'm writing sometimes. You know, in fact, I deliberately write myself into corners in a way. I'm not a great planner. I don't like knowing what's going to happen at a stage. I like to jump in and write, which inevitably means I get stuck. But that's part of the game almost.
Yeah.
You know, it churns around in my head and I think, or I might backtrack and go at it again. But I do tend to have several different things on the go at once. So it would be more than one writing project, but I also teach and I critique.
Yeah.
So if I'm stuck, there's always something else work-wise that I can go to.
Okay.
I come back to the writing. Something has resolved itself.
I see. So when you start writing, you don't always have the ending in your head yet.
I sometimes quite often have the ending, and I always, of course, have to have the beginning up to a point. But what I don't know is how I'm going to get from the beginning to the ending. I have tried plotting a novel, and it came out dull. I think because I knew what was happening. I mean, there's this story here, which is set in the Klondike Gold Rush.
Okay.
About 2/3 of yes, more than half anyway of the story is the journey that this girl Ida and her father do from England to Canada, across Canada, up the coast, over doing the great journey right up into the Arctic. And all that way, I didn't know whether or not she was going to find gold, or they were going to find gold. And it's fairly fundamental to a story about the gold rush. If they do find gold, that's very corny when most people didn't. If they don't find gold, it's going to be really disappointing when you've read all that.
Yeah.
But by the time they'd arrived in the Klondike, the story had sort of come to life on its own in my head. And one of those moments where you feel as if you're chasing after the story, writing it down while it sort of forms itself, and you're not consciously putting it together. And I'm not going to tell you whether they found gold.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, but I thought maybe I should wait until I read.
But a solution did come.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
I will go to library or bookshop to get that book to read, and I find out how you resolve the problem. So if when you go to school and you share ideas with children,
yes,
and if a child come to you and say, "Oh, I have no idea. I don't have any idea."
Yes.
What would you tell them to?
I tend to tell them that there are two very useful words. That you just look at ordinary things and you think, what if? What if there's something different? What if these glasses don't just let me see you on the screen more clearly, they let me see what you're thinking. Or
Ah.
what if this pencil, when I go down to write the date, it says, help, I am stuck in a cupboard, I've been kidnapped, or just things
Yeah.
to twist, because
Yeah.
you're not stuck with reality in a story.
Mhm.
You have that freedom to do anything,
Yeah.
things, and it can be
Mhm.
dangerous things, or
Mhm.
wise things to do in real life.
Yeah. That's really a great tip. And the glasses that make you see other things, really interesting. Have you written any story about glasses that
Oddly
make you
enough, many years ago, I wrote my one adult book,
yeah.
a novel,
Mhm.
which was called Spectacles, and it was
Mhm.
about an old lady, and she gets glasses and
Yeah.
suddenly sees the world clear
Yeah.
for the first
Uh-huh.
time, and sort of
Mm.
sees it clear in other ways
Mm.
as well.
Yeah. Oh,
But
that's a really good, interesting idea. I would love that glasses. Okay. So, you do lots of school visits, and
yeah,
you must be very busy this month because there was a World Book Day.
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
there are many months when I don't do any school visits, but there are
Uh,
some seasons, and
yes.
World Book Day is the main. Yes,
Mm.
about 3 weeks of almost non-stop travel.
Yeah. So, what sort of activities do you do with children?
It depends what the school wants. Sometimes
Mm.
I do workshops and writing with the children, but
Mhm.
usually I'm in a primary school and they want me to work with each year group. So that's
Mhm.
7 or 8 groups if we do an
Mhm.
assembly as well.
Yeah.
With
Mhm.
the littlest nursery ones, it's just sharing 2 or 3 picture books, and
Uh-huh.
working up and talking more about stories and where you get ideas and what to do
Yeah.
with them, uh,
Mhm.
and we might play with the ideas that the children give and see if we can
Mhm.
cook up a new story together that they can then
Yeah.
put on.
Mhm. What do you enjoy the most? What activity do you enjoy the most?
With the children, well, I quite like that making
Mhm.
up stories. I mean, you
Yeah, I thought
just
that would
don't
be.
know what ideas are going to be thrown at you, and there's
Yeah.
often one child who will throw in something that they think will really send it send it off kilter, and
Yeah.
it's very very pleasing if you can use that actually.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
sometimes it works better than others. But
And
I
the chil
hope
yeah.
they see the process, the thinking process of, well, if you've got this happening,
Mm,
then what follows, and why are they in this position, and
mm,
therefore just the
mhm.
sort of logical, almost like
Yeah.
a sum
Mm.
adds up.
Mhm. And the children ask you lots of questions?
uh, the older ones ask lots of questions.
Yeah.
The younger ones,
Mhm.
with any questions, and they put up a hand and they say, I've got a fish. They're not actually questions at all.
I see. Can you share any unusual questions you've ever been asked by children?
um, well, of the not question sort, there was my auntie Lily has a new fridge freezer.
Okay.
Proper questions. Children tend to ask
Yeah.
what teachers are longing to know but are too polite to ask. So they'll say, how old are you? And
Uh-huh.
I always get them to have a guess. But
Yeah.
more to the point, and actually very much to the point, they
Mhm.
say, well, say, do you live in a big house? Or what they're getting at is, are you rich? How much do you earn? So I do
Mm.
explain to them, well, the teachers all say, oh, you can't ask that, but longing to know. So I
Yeah.
actually tell them how you get paid as a royalty, and that
Mm,
you want a book like the Winnie the Witch ones.
mm,
When you work it out, it's 5p a book that's
mm.
sold. So got to sell 20 books before I get a pound.
Yeah.
Small children think that's a lot, and
Yeah.
the teacher thinking, oh.
Yeah. That's a quite eye-opening for people to hear, actually, isn't it?
Well, I think it is because teachers quite often say to children, so who wants to be an author? As if this is an option that they can leave school and earn a living
Yeah.
from being an author. And it's not not realistic or kind, really, in that they
Mm,
probably have to do something else. And even if they write a bestseller, it's going to take time before they get that money.
uh-huh. Mm,
I tend to be a bit of a a realist on these things.
mhm. But it is important, isn't it? When you started writing, did
Yeah.
you have to do something else to support finance?
When I started writing, I was at home with small children and, as
Mm,
I say, child minding other people's
yeah.
children.
Ah,
And,
yeah.
I had a husband who had a job.
Mm,
So
mm,
I think that's why you get an awful lot of middle
yeah.
class women being the writers, is because they
Mhm,
had that pause in their lives,
yeah.
can try it.
Mm,
They're
yeah.
effectively supported by,
Mm,
a partner. Uh,
mhm,
Now he's retired and I support
yeah.
him. So
Mhm, yeah. Taking turn.
yes, yes.
Yeah, his investment was right. And the writers, they don't get retired, do they?
Well, I just expect that at some point nobody's going to want what I'm producing. It's how it will work.
Well, you are very popular on demand, so I think you will have to keep writing. So to keep writing,
Mm,
you have to be able to have children's point of view.
yes.
But how do you maintain a child in yourself? What helps you to keep looking at things from children's point of view?
I could vividly remember what it was like being a child of a particular chunk of my childhood.
Yeah.
So I suppose it was the sort of the primary school years.
Mhm.
I've never written for teenagers, and I think because I was a very dull teenager, I never rebelled. I just sulked,
Mhm.
So I don't sort of want to go back to those years particularly,
Oh,
but I really enjoyed my childhood. So
yeah.
it's vivid to me still.
Mhm, mhm.
And of course, meeting children in school
Yeah.
takes you back to what they're interested in. But also
Mm.
physically, if you get down to a child's
Mm.
literal viewpoint,
Mhm. Mhm.
I often think with picture books and things of child characters,
Yeah.
walking down the street, what they see is a forest of legs.
Mm.
It's not adults face on at all. So it's
Yeah,
a
that's
very
right.
different world.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
remembering that.
Mhm. Yeah, as an adult, it's easy to forget that point of
Yeah.
view. We always look down, but yes, that's a very good lesson for me. I
As
will
an
start
illustrator,
walking.
yes, well, you
Yeah.
can look up at
Yeah.
adults, up their
Mhm.
nostrils.
Yes. When you write stories, do
Mm.
you have an image about the character, what they should look like?
Um, no, not really their physical
Mhm,
appearance. I know them very well from within,
mhm,
emotionally what they're like.
mhm,
Um, Sometimes there's some important aspect of their look.
mhm.
The story I'm writing at the moment is set in Victorian times,
Yeah.
but the main character is half Afro-Caribbean.
Mm.
So her look is it's not a big thing in the story.
Aha.
It is a key thing. So
Mhm,
if somebody produced a cover with showing her blonde or would
mhm,
be utterly wrong.
mhm.
But usually when artwork comes, you think, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
not a problem.
Okay, okay. So you don't tell the illustrator, um, for example, this Little Monster books. Did you tell the illustrator the monster should be green color
No,
or
no,
spiky
that's
head?
entirely Nick. No, uh,
Okay.
I'm just trying to think. This one, which I see behind you, the bottle of happiness one.
Yeah.
I played a little game with that. That
Uh,
was for an Iranian illustrator,
yeah, that's very unusual illustration.
and I wrote it
Mm.
about a child called Pim, and I
Mm.
never once say him or her.
Mhm.
And I said, just say Pim. And
Yeah.
I wondered what the illustrator would do.
Yeah.
I thought, he's made Pim a boy.
Yeah.
When I met Ehsan,
Mhm.
we did the Edinburgh Festival together, and we had
Yes.
a translator, of course. He speaks Farsi, I speak English. And I asked him about that. I said, I see you made him a boy. And he said, no, 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 she's could be a girl. Or
Oh.
so very much from both of us,
Mhm.
ambivalent about whether Pim is male or female.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my stories. I write a story about a pair of socks called
Oh
Bochi and
yes, I
Pochi,
know that one, yes.
and I haven't decided the gender.
So the same sort of thing.
Yeah. But in Japanese, the uh, the gender matters when we speak. So
Yes.
there's like a male way of speech and female way of speech. So when it's translated, well, I translate myself, but I was, in Japanese that will be difficult.
Yes.
I will have to decide the gender at some point.
Which way did you go?
Yes. So okay, so this can be a little girl.
Yeah.
I thought he was a little boy, but the name Pim it's can be a girl.
Well, I thought I made it up. So.
Yeah. But in this different countries, names sound different. My name Noriko is
Yes.
a typical female name in Japan, but in Italy, something end with O is
Yeah.
a boy's name. So, by the way, Pippa is a really good name for children's book author, I think.
People sometimes say, "What's your real name?" Because particularly with the Goodhart bit. But
Yeah.
I mean, I married the Goodhart bit, but
Yeah.
and they tend to spell it
Yeah.
wrongly, so that
Yeah.
it's Heart.
Yeah.
It's ART.
Mhm. Oh, that made me think. Your Winnie,
Yes.
the witch stories. What made you use the pen name Laura Owen?
It's not my choice. Winnie the Witch was invented by an Australian author called Valerie Thomas, and she does all the big picture books.
Aha.
And she, because she invented the character, she owns the character. So when the publisher wanted longer stories,
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't wanting to do it or couldn't do it. I don't know what. And they said, could they ask somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
And she said yes, but they can't have their name on the book. So Oxford University Press asked me if I'd do it, and I said,
Yeah.
yes. Very odd taking on somebody else's character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you can't have your name on the book. So I said, fine, just put Corky Paul. And they said, no, it's odder than that. Apparently, it's got to say Laura Owen. And I've never found out
Yeah.
why. So
Okay.
Laura doesn't exist,
Uh-huh.
but the stories are entirely mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering why you have to change the name.
Yes, well, of course, children are very intrigued.
Yeah.
It's a bit secret, you know.
Yeah.
The early books that I wrote, I dedicated the books to people in my family so that the Goodhart bit of the name got inside. But
Yeah.
I ran out of Goodharts after.
Yeah. If
I've done
you've written
so
over
many
100 books. So
Well,
what?
just the Winnie ones, I've done 74 stories.
Wow,
There are four
74
in a book.
stories.
Mm.
In Japanese books, usually we don't dedicate to anybody, so it's we don't have to think about it. Yeah. Ah. So who did you dedicate this to?
I can't remember. Was it to Father Christmas?
Um, it's got the label of the
Well,
libraries. I can't see it.
I'm pretty sure that I dedicated it to Father Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
The story is about when he realizes that everybody gets Christmas presents delivered except for Father Christmas. So I thought, well, I'll give the book to Father Christmas as well.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And when at the beginning, when Winnie was thinking about what to get Santa Claus, and there are so many weird presents you came up with.
Well, it's fun writing for Corky Paul and giving him challenges.
Yeah. Um, so I'm very curious about how you work with Illustrator because I illustrate my own books, so I don't have other expectations. But
Yes.
when you work with illustrators, I guess you discuss It's gonna look like sometimes, no?
Well, it varies enormously. You're holding You Choose, and that
Yeah.
Nick and I work very closely together. That was the first book we worked on together, and we met up, I think, 4 times in London at the publishers' offices
Yeah.
with the designer and the editor there,
Mm.
and talked through ideas with Nick sketching, and then he
Uh-huh.
went away and did them.
Mm.
Now, when we work together, we do a lot of emailing. Uh,
Mm. Mm.
so, have you got any ideas for this spread? And
Yeah.
you wait, and then there are these wonderful pictures,
Uh-huh.
which include
Yeah, it's
most of
great. Is
the ideas are his, but
mm.
your ideas, which is lovely. But
Yeah.
um, you never meet the illustrator, or even sometimes don't even see the illustrations until the book's published.
Uh-huh. See.
But
Just
I,
looking through this. And you didn't write a story, but you wrote you make the reader to choose a story in this
yeah,
book.
it's a
Yeah.
of ideas really,
Yeah.
and it was turned down by 9 publishers exactly
Really?
because it doesn't tell a story. But
Ah,
my children always loved looking through catalogues and choosing
yeah.
things, even though they weren't going to get in all the things.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I just thought back to those 2 words, what
Yeah.
if you could have a catalogue of the
Yeah.
really big things in life that you often
Yeah.
don't get to choose,
Yeah.
particularly if you're a child, of course.
Mm, mm. Wow. Well, this sold over 1 million copies.
Yes, over a long
Right.
time.
Yeah. And the 9 publishers missed out this
Yes, they
opportunity.
did.
Uh, my daughter, she's very quick when she sees things. She knows what she likes the best.
Yes.
So the family, who would you like for family and friends? She chose a witch.
Well, it's very deliberately there are things to choose for different moods, so
Mhm.
you can do it seriously, or you can just be silly.
Mhm.
True, yeah.
And these, you didn't tell Nick what to draw, did
Uh,
you?
I gave a list of some ideas, but
Mm.
most of that is from Nick himself, and he
Mm.
says that some of the things there are from his home.
Ah, okay. And I spotted his characters in the books somewhere. Oh, where is it?
Oh, well, there was Tracy Beaker in their Family and Friends.
Aha. Is it is it Tracy Beak? No.
No, no, I
Where?
think it's on that Family and Friends spread. But
Family
no,
friends.
no, let me
Is
check.
it? Is it here?
Yes. Now, she's pointing. Can you look at the girl at the bottom? She's
Oh.
pointing to Tracy Beaker.
Yes. Yes, yeah, I can. Yeah.
Actually, on the far right of page, there is a couple more. Yes, there are a
Yes,
couple more
Timothy
characters
Pope
there.
and Timothy's dad.
Yes, and in this book, I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen this. You Choose in Space.
Yes,
There
I've
is,
seen it.
well, in a corner of. Can you see there? Don't know whether there's enough light on it. Let's see. Uh, that's Nick and me.
Ah! uh, I actually met Nick in person the other day.
Oh, did you?
He came to an event in Durham,
Oh, yes.
and
He's bringing
after,
Laura along. That was my daughter you just.
yeah.
Oh,
Hello. Yeah, after the event, we queued up for over an hour to speak to him.
yes.
And I told him that I'm going to interview Pippa Goodhart. And he went, oh, really, Pippa? And so say hello to her. And yes, I would.
He's lovely.
Yeah. Well, after the event, he must have been tired, but he just took time to
Yes.
talk to
Yes.
each.
He's very generous. Yes.
Yes, yeah. Ah, so you two made this book as well?
Yes. Now that one, because the publishers have just decided 16 years from publication of You Choose that
Ah,
You Choose is a brand. So
ah,
actually, Just Imagine has been recovered and now is called You Choose Your Dreams. Same book, but a different title,
Okay. All
which I don't
right.
like. I think that's going to confuse people, but
Yeah.
that's what they wanted.
It must have taken Nick some time to draw all these pictures.
2 years.
2 years.
And at the end of it, he said, I'm never going to do another book like that. And it took him a good number of years. It took him about 7 years of recovery from You Choose before he agreed to do Just Imagine.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I wondered how long it took him to draw these pictures. I'm very slow drawer,
Yes.
and it takes me a year to do one picture book.
Really? Yes.
Yeah, but he has done so many books, 250 books or something.
I expect so, yeah.
Yeah. But
And
this one
there's a
took
new
a long.
Choose one on its way that he's done all the illustrations and he's now coloring in.
Coloring also will take time.
Well, that was, yes, he was doing it with computer coloring in with You Choose. And he didn't have a mouse and he was doing it all on the pad, so his finger was worn down.
Ah, see. After you worked with the illustrator, is there any books that you would do differently?
Ooh. The only ones that I haven't liked aren't current ones, but there was a phase with novels of having photograph covers. And when you are faced with a photograph of a real child, that is very odd when you have a child in your mind. Somehow it's easier to relate to a drawn child or drawn person than a photograph.
Yeah.
Of course, is a very particular real person.
I see. But after that made this book, you can't say anything to publisher to change?
Well, as I say, it works differently with different publishers, but what often happens is that I'll get sent roughs, so sort of pencil drawings, showing the layout and where things are, and then I do comment before the illustrator goes to coloured up, where of course then a bit more fixed. Yes, but some publishers don't allow that.
Okay. So you work with many publishers. Do you work with them directly or do you have an agent?
It's varied over the years. I used to have an agent, and then I actually left my agent over You Choose because she didn't think it was going to work.
Okay.
And I'm very used to things being turned down, but I had faith in that one. Arrogantly battled on. So I went without an agent for about a dozen years after, and was perfectly happy doing that. But then an agent got in touch with me, and we talked, and she said she'd like to take me on. And it's so nice having somebody to be your advocate and ask for money and make sure that the paperwork's right, and just to talk things through and so yes, I would strongly recommend having agents, even I went for a long time without one.
Well, when I was sending my submission, it was harder to find an agent than finding publisher.
Yes, I'm not surprised. Yes.
Was it the publisher who matched you up with Nick?
Yes and no. It was one of those magical moments where I went to the publisher and talked through You Choose, and she said, have you anyone in mind? I don't often get asked. And I said, well, in my dreams, it would be Sharratt. And she said, that's just who I thought of. Shall I bring him up? And suddenly it was happening.
Wow. Your instinct was right about this book, wasn't it? And I'm glad that you kept the faith and kept going. You've made so many books, but out of all the books, out of all the characters you made, who's your favorite?
That's really hard. It's almost
there's so many characters.
Children, which is your favorite? All the characters, the nasty ones as well as the nice ones, are aspects of me.
Yeah.
So I feel for them all.
Yeah.
I don't think I can choose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I see. And also you worked in the various format, picture books and early early readers books and novels. What is your favorite format? What type of books you
Whichever
like?
I'm not working on at the moment. I I think probably picture books are the
Picture books. Ah, okay.
oh, even
Mm-hmm.
though I mean you choose. I suggested to the publisher that there were no no text at all.
Oh.
So as an author,
Uh-huh.
trying to be the author of a book with no words,
How does it work?
what do you give your ideas? I suppose.
Mhm.
Although there
Yeah.
are a lot of words in You Choose, if you look at the end papers,
Yeah.
very deliberately, there are a lot of interesting words if a child wants to bother with it.
Yeah.
No, just open it up.
Oh, you're talking
Yeah.
about
Yes,
this.
and at both ends it's different words.
Yeah.
So that's for the child who enjoys funny words, and then they can find all those things in the picture. But I would have been the child who just moved on and didn't
Mm.
bother with the words; they were too hard.
Yeah, I'm glad you told me about this because I didn't realize everything is different words. Oh, yeah. So there are lots of writing in
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Is that the same for Just Imagine?
yes.
Ah, yes. Ah, what are what do you think are the most important qualities for authors to have?
um, a funny mixture of arrogance to believe
Mm.
in your ideas, even when,
Mm-hmm.
and humility to
Mm-hmm.
know when actually something's being turned down because it's not good enough. So you've got to have that sort of
Yeah.
thick skin, thin
Mm-hmm.
skin
I
going
see.
on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when I was turned down so many times, I nearly stopped sending submissions
Yep,
because,
I've been there.
yeah. But one day my husband told me, well, you just need to find one person who likes your work.
Yeah.
And it's easier than winning a lottery ticket. And I said, okay, okay, I will try to
Yeah,
find just one person. And I kept sending. And finally, I found one.
good.
Yeah. Mm. So it's very important to believe in what
Persevere,
you,
yes.
yeah. Yeah. Mm. And don't give up, maybe, if
Yes.
you get turned down. Yeah. I think that so many talented authors gave up before they reached the publication. They
Yes.
before
And
they
maybe
find a
you do
publisher.
need to give up on a particular project
Mhm,
and move on to another one, but don't
mhm.
give up writing altogether. No.
Yeah. How um how can you decide this one is I give
Um,
up and this one you would
well,
take?
partly other people's reactions to
Mhm,
things, of course. You need to take notice of that, even if you don't always agree with them.
mhm,
And of course, distance can help as well. If you put something aside and then come at it fresh,
mhm, mhm.
sometimes you think, oh, actually, that's really good. And
Yeah.
sometimes you think, oh, why ever did I send that off?
Hmm. I see. Yeah, I've got lots of ideas that I kept in the closet, and I have to dig out again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have tips and advices you would give to aspiring
I think
authors?
the main thing is to read lots,
Mm.
uh, to read critically, so that
Uh-huh.
you think about what you've written. You think, why was that boring, or how was that brilliant, or read to children. What was it that they laughed at and
Mm.
liked? What was it that they were yawning at? You know,
Mhm.
so think a bit beyond the
Yeah.
obvious, and
Mm-hmm.
also observe the way that stories are played through books, particularly picture books.
Mm-hmm.
How the sort of theatre of the book is,
Yes.
revealing the next scene and so on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just getting a feel for it all.
Yeah. You teach adults how to write for children.
Yes.
don't you? So if people want to learn from you, how can they go about?
I do various different courses,
Yeah.
but the main ones, I do 2 online ones,
Mm-hmm.
is with Cambridge University's
Mm-hmm.
Institute of Continued Education, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
7-week introduction to writing for children. So you
Mm-hmm.
cover a lot in a short time.
Yeah.
And then I do a 4-week writing picture book course
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
Jericho writers.
Uh-huh. Is
So
it
that,
available online as well?
oh yes, that both of those are
Okay.
online
All right.
and worldwide. It's rather wonderful. You've
Okay.
asked from
I might take your course. So okay, I will get all this information and I will write down under this
put the link.
videos.
Yes.
Yeah, so people can go there. Oh, great. Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. Oh, so that novel, can I ask what the title is going to be?
Well, the working title is Mill Girl, because
Pilgrim.
it's about a Victorian girl working in a cotton mill in the
Okay.
80s. But it will probably end up with a different title.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what inspired you to write this story?
Well, I've written several historical
Mm-hmm.
where I've enjoyed researching something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and when the last one came out, this one, which is actually set in my home village and is about um,
Ah.
coprolite mining and finding fossils, all at the time when the ideas of evolution were starting. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
as this book was being printed, we were actually at the printers watching it, which I'd never
Mm-hmm.
seen
Oh,
before. But with
wow.
the publisher, she
Mm-hmm.
said, "We want another book for this
Yeah.
time next year." And
Mm-hmm.
usually my historical novels have taken a long time to do, but this one I
Mm-hmm.
had to do fast.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for the Victorian mill girl theme is partly because in schools it's part of the national curriculum, and the
Okay.
Victorians topic, so it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
fits in with that.
Yeah. Just remembered you completed a history degree.
I did.
Yeah, so you are interested in history.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and answering all these questions.
Pleasure. Nice to
Thank
meet you.
you. Yeah, nice meeting you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.